At 58, I remarried 3 years after losing my wife. I didn't tell Victoria I owned the Vineyard Resort in Sonoma where we lived. I told her I was just the general manager. And I did the right thing. Because 72 hours after our wedding, she tried to wire $500,000 and... True story. When the notification arrived at 2:14 a.m., a soft vibration on my phone, not loud enough to wake her, but loud enough to wake me. I stared at the ceiling, counting my breaths, letting the vineyard's night settle into my bones. The house was still. Too still. The kind of stillness that only exists when someone thinks they're safe. I turned the phone face down. Then I turned my head and watched my wife sleep. Victoria lay on her side, lips slightly parted, one arm thrown across my chest like a claim. She smelled like the jasmine lotion she'd started using after the wedding, a detail she'd introduced deliberately. A scent is a signature. My pulse didn't change. I waited. When the phone vibrated again, I already knew what it was. A fraud prevention alert from the private bank. Attempted wire transfer, $500,000. Destination, offshore holding account. Status, pending verification. 72 hours. That's how long it took her. I didn't move. I didn't flinch. I didn't wake her. I closed my eyes and let the image settle. The ceremony under the oak trees, her hand squeezing mine at the vows. The practiced tremor in her voice when she said forever. Forever had a price tag. I listened to the house breathe. I listened to her breathe. And I understood something with perfect clarity. Not that she was trying to steal from me, but that she had never married me at all. She had married the version of me I'd allowed her to see. And now, without knowing it, she had just signed her own confession. 3 years earlier, I buried my first wife. Cancer doesn't rush. It edits you slowly, removes your certainty sentence by sentence. By the time it finished with her, I was a quieter man, more deliberate, less inclined to explain myself. People assume grief makes you weak. It doesn't. It makes you observant. When Victoria entered my life, she did so with precision. We met at the resort cafe, my resort, though she didn't know that, where I introduced myself as the general manager. A useful lie, a controlled one. She asked the right questions. She laughed at the right pauses. She admired the right things. Never the land, never the legacy, always the lifestyle. She spoke of timing, of fate, of how brave it was for a man my age to love again. I let her believe it was courage. The first time she asked about ownership, I smiled and redirected. Said the investors preferred privacy, that I handled operations. She nodded, accepted it, too easily. Over the months, I noticed the fractures, how her affection peaked around financial conversations, how she grew distant when money was abstract but intimate when it felt close. She never asked how I felt about my late wife, only what she'd left me. Still, I married her, because love doesn't blind you. It dares you to test what you already suspect. After the wedding, her behavior shifted, subtly. The way predators relax once the cage door clicks shut. She began asking about account access, about consolidating assets as a couple. I delayed, calmly, kindly. I watched her patience erode. And now, 3 nights in, she'd made her move. The betrayal wasn't the wire transfer. It was the assumption that I was predictable. I didn't confront her. I brewed coffee the next morning, kissed her cheek, asked how she slept. She smiled too brightly, said she'd dreamed of the ocean. I scheduled meetings. I made calls, quiet ones. I pulled transaction logs from accounts she didn't know were firewalled, reviewed access attempts. Timestamps told stories. So did patterns. I checked her phone records. Not illegally. She'd added me to the plan without thinking. Love makes people careless. There was a name that appeared too often. Evan. Short calls. Long silences. Late hours. I followed the money trail next. Not the attempted transfer. The intention behind it. The offshore account had a history. A shell linked to 2 prior marriages. Both ended quietly. Efficiently. Widowers. I observed her in the evenings. The way she watched me when she thought I wasn't looking. The way she recalibrated her voice depending on my mood. I let her think she was winning. Inside I was cold, not angry, precise. I arranged for a background check that went further than standard. Found a different last name. Found a history of proximity to wealth. Found a pattern of exits timed just before suspicion ripened. She wasn't impulsive. She was practiced. On the 3rd day, she asked if we could sit down and plan our future. I said yes. I already had. That evening, I placed a folder on the table between us. No labels, no drama. She glanced at it, then at me. "What's this?" she asked. I didn't answer immediately. I poured 2 glasses of wine. Let the silence work. Silence always tells the truth faster. Open it, I said. Her fingers hesitated. Just for a moment. Inside were copies, bank records, marriage certificates, a timeline. Her face changed incrementally. Shock didn't arrive all at once. It fractured her expression in stages. This isn't, she began. I raised a hand. I know, I said. Everything. She cried then. Real tears. Fear produces authenticity. I remained still. What did you expect? I asked softly. That I wouldn't notice? She reached for me. I stood. That's when I told her. Not about the money, about the resort, about the land, about the fact that I was never the manager. I watched the realization hit, her harder than the evidence. She hadn't misjudged my trust. She had misjudged my power. I didn't call the police. I didn't raise my voice. I slid one final document across the table, an annulment, pre-signed, pre-approved, triggered by fraud. I explained that the wire transfer attempt had already been reported, that the accounts she thought she accessed never existed, that her name would never touch my assets. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. Evan knows, I added. He always does. That broke her. She fell apart quietly, the way liars do when the script ends. I told her she had 24 hours to leave. The vineyard would remember her as a guest. Nothing more. The morning she left, the fog rolled in low over the vines. I watched from the terrace as her car disappeared down the drive. No anger, no grief, just silence. People think revenge needs heat. It doesn't. It needs clarity. I returned to the work I'd paused for love, and this time I didn't lie about who I was. The land recognized me, and I recognized myself. I didn't lose a wife. I removed a threat, and that was enough.